In Scotland, last year, 5,400 young people became homeless as a result of a relationship breaking down in their family. That's the equivalent, if you think of like 5 high schools worth of young people. So when you are a teenager, your brain is going through a lot of changes. You will feel emotions a lot more intensely, but you're also maybe more likely to go into your fight or flight state. One really good tip for when you're having difficult conversations. My name's Ellie and I'm the Emotional Health and Wellbeing Lead for the Scottish Centre for Conflict Resolution, and we're part of a charity called Cyrenians that tackles homelessness, and our role specifically is to reduce youth homelessness by providing education and resources around conflict resolution in families. When you are a teenager, your brain is going through a lot of changes. And it's going through what we call a process of remodeling. So you'll feel emotions more intensely, but you're also maybe more likely to go into your fight or flight state. So if you're having an argument with a parent or a carer, or you're having an argument with a friend, you might tend to react a lot more quickly because that thinking part of your brain is not fully developed. So you're not able to stop and think about things so much. For you, your dopamine levels start a lot lower than an adult. And dopamine is a chemical that is like your excitement chemical. So you get dopamine when you're excited about something and when you try something new. But your base level is a lot lower than an adult. So you might feel that you're bored a lot of the time, and that's because your dopamine levels are low. But then when you try something new and exciting, you might have this urge to try different things or take risks. And that's because when you do that, your dopamine levels go a lot higher than they would if you were an adult or a child. So it kind of explains some of that risk-taking behaviour. And it's a really natural part of being the age that you're at. So there's a lot of changes going on, but it can be quite difficult for parents and carers because they can worry about you when you start to take these risks. And it's a big change from when you shift from being really close maybe with your parents and carers, or having that they look after you kind of relationship, to now you're much more close with your friends, and those are who are important to you. And the other change that is going on that you might notice is changes in your melatonin levels. So melatonin is your sleep hormone, and it's released to tell you to go to sleep. But for you, it is released a lot later in the day than it is for your parents or your carers, or maybe your younger brothers and sisters. So you end up going to sleep a lot later, and then as a result, you end up waking up a lot later in the morning. One really good tip for when you're having difficult conversations, or there's something that you're frustrated about that you want to talk about, is to use I statements instead of you statements. Instead of starting the conversation with "you always do this" or "you never do that," and like a blaming statement like "you never listen to me," you're always telling me to do things, you start by saying "I feel like this, so I feel stressed," or "I feel overwhelmed." So you're expressing your emotion first, how you're feeling, rather than focusing on what the other person is doing. And that way it opens up the conversation for the other person to say how they are feeling, rather than to come back at you with, "well, you're doing this and you're doing that," and then it just becomes this blame game of who's doing what to who. Another tip that I think that I always use, which is really helpful, is when you have had an argument and you think that didn't go so well, is to use, we call it an ABC triangle. So A stands for attitudes. You ask yourself, what was I feeling in that moment? What were they feeling? What kind of beliefs or ideas did they have? B stands for behaviour. So what kind of behaviour went on for both of us? Was there shouting, or did one of us walk away? And C stands for context. So what was the context? What actually happened in the conflict? What were we arguing about? But also, what was going on for me that day, and what was going on for them that day? So then why did all of those things happen? How did they influence each other? And how could we have done that slightly better? Going back to an argument to maybe resolve it is really, really important, repairing that relationship. And it might be apologising, or it might be, chances are, once you've stepped away from that mindset and you're empathising and you've thought about it, the chances are you'll have something else to say on that. And so it's important to go back to it when you're both ready. I really recommend, if you are struggling with your mental health, to go to SAMH or Mind, so you can find them online, or Bernardo's is really great. And obviously, if you're really, really struggling and you're in a crisis, you can always call the emergency services or Childline as well.